That's back-to-back losses for the Knights. UCF loses to Florida 24-13 in Gainesville in a game that really was truly never close. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. Before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor, Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at a weekly prizes and a share of $200K. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. It is 3:21 in the morning. It is late. I am tired. Exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. It was a long day. I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Had to take my girlfriend to a race she had. Got a couple of hours in after that, but I've been up all day. And I'm going to have to, after I film this, go and edit it and then post it. But this is what we do it for. Right? We put in the work, we put in the grind to bring content to UCF fans because that's what they deserve. UCF fans have never ceased to amaze me in big-time moments. We talked about last week how UCF fans excelled against Colorado, showing up for big noon kickoff, showing up for the game. And they've done that year in and year out. And it's something, you go to Gainesville and listen, Florida fans didn't like me very much for the months leading up to the game because I said, I think you're going to see a good 30% of UCF fans fill up the swamp. UCF fans are going to go to the swamp and they're going to show up. And Florida fans didn't believe me. Boy, did they. So I'm getting the positive out of the way now. Because UCF fans showed up to Gainesville. I heard some media guys said they thought it was about 60-40 in terms of UCF fans to Florida fans. I was sitting in a section where there was a lot of UCF fans, but there were some Florida fans. And when we all said, when the Knights during the national anthem was said, Florida fans were visibly like, and the Florida fans in front of me were like, that was really cool. Like, that's... So as a Knights fan and somebody that covers the team, has been watching UCF football since I was a kid, living here my entire life, to see UCF fans show up to the swamp and show out and kind of make SEC fans be like, wow, that, they played against Miami this season, folks. Like, it just, it brings me great joy. And that was the only positive from the night. Let's get into the game. I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can. It is 3:30 in the morning, like I said. I am exhausted. I drove Stephen Leonard home from the game. He was working at the game, needed a ride home. So we talked for the last 2.5 hours, and if only we recorded the pod from the car, because you would have got a whole lot of analysis, complaining, head shaking questions, not a lot of answers, because that's a whole lot of what we've gotten these last couple weeks. Now, I want to preface it. I did state leading into this game that you can't, even in a loss, I did pick UCF to lose this game. Not because I wanted to, but because I said there's a lot of question marks that UCF needs to prove to its fans and prove to the country that they are not what they showed against TCU and Colorado. I think the worst thing that could have happened to this UCF team was them beating TCU the way that they did and giving unspoken confidence or unearned confidence that they are the team that maybe we thought they were. They're not. Okay? And I did say you don't want to put too much stock into 2 football games. You don't want to put too much stock into a Florida game. It's a tough environment. You don't want to put too much stock into it. I did say that. I take some of it back. The way you lose matters. The way you lost at Colorado does matter. Or at home against Colorado, it matters. Colorado made you look silly at home. And heading into this Florida game, everybody was saying it was going to be a close game, and that both these teams they have glaring holes. I said it, they've got glaring holes. UCF can run the ball, Florida can't stop the run. UCF can't stop the pass. Florida can pass the ball if they want to, and Graham Mertz can carve you up if he wants to. I'm done. I think I remember saying, against TCU that, every week we're just going to go look at what the team's ranking in rushing defense is, because UCF is just going to run it down people's throats. That's not happening. And I'll tell you why it's not happening, because what did we say? We said, if you become too one-dimensional with your identity, teams are going to do everything they can to stop that and force you to do what they think you're not good at, which is throwing the football. KJ has shown that he can make throws. The problem is, I think we've seen a lot in the last 2 weeks that make us believe that the coaching staff is just not confident in KJ. And I don't think that's crazy to say. I've seen a lot. I saw a lot tonight that made you really believe. The coaching staff can tell you all they want about how they feel about KJ Jefferson. Has Gus thrown one wide receiver screen this season? Just a random question. Has he thrown one wide receiver screen? And trust me, this is coming from somebody that does not like the Gus Malzahn wide receiver screen game. But I mean, go back. How many times did he call a wide receiver screen last season? Last 2 seasons? Has he called one this year? I don't think so. The playbook has been the most vanilla I've seen under Gus. Some of the play calls are mind-boggling the way that they're getting called. KJ Jefferson is not John Rice Plumlee. He's not Cam Newton. Calling quarterback draws with KJ Jefferson doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yet we keep trying it. We keep trying to run the ball with KJ like he's some dual threat. He's not. He can make plays with his feet. Like, again, he almost got sacked in the end zone. He tried and he got out of his sack. It was the best play he made all night. Got out of the sack, threw a ball to Trent Whittemore. Best play he made all night. But it's not. He can make those plays, but it's not designed for him to run. The best plays with KJ on his feet are when they're not designed. And I think this offense is still getting acted as if we have a quarterback that is or has elite speed. KJ's 250, 260 pounds. Yet on a 4th and 1, KJ's in a shotgun with Johnny Richardson on the field. Now, it worked in the second half. But I knew in the second half they're going to hand it off to Johnny. Why? Well, because the first time they ran a 4th and 1 with Johnny Richardson in the game and KJ in the shotgun, they ran it up the gut with KJ, and it was a turnover on downs. So in the second half, I'm like, they're giving it to Johnny. And they did, and it was a first down. So credit where credit's due. The problem is, I shouldn't be able to guess some of the play calls, but yet, out of however many plays they called, I guessed a good majority of what they were doing tonight. Me and Nick were sitting there watching, saying, this is what this is going to be. And guess what it was? The offense has become too predictable. People have watched the Gus Malzahn offense for years. And one of the things that a lot of people give credit to Gus Malzahn for is saying, you don't know where the ball's going. You don't know if it's going to be a throw. You don't know if it's going to be a run. You don't know if it's going to be a screen. This offense, you know. You know UCF's going to run the football. They don't care if KJ keeps it because they feel like they'll be able to stop KJ. They'll give it to the motion guy, and that can be dangerous if done right, but they usually don't give it to the motion guy, which, like I said, it most likely is going to be Johnny Richardson, and what do you know? It was Johnny Richardson. I also said Javarius Johnson was most likely going to be wide receiver 3. That turned out to be accurate. He was basically wide receiver 3, coming in with, it was a mix between Jacoby Jones, Javarius Johnson, and Jared Baker, but it was mainly Javarius Johnson. This offense has become bland. And, I'm going on a big spiel here, but I've been a big supporter of Gus. I think a lot of UCF fans, and listen, sometimes it can be frustrating to see fire Gus every single time there's a bad loss. It gets frustrating because I always say, well, what's the alternative? If you're the AD, what is your alternative to Gus Malzahn? Because I don't think people understand that you fire Gus Malzahn, you're setting the program back at minimum a year. At minimum. And that's if you make the perfect hire that proves that he can literally get this entire thing turned around like that and get all the recruits and recruit at a high level. That's if you make the right hire. And that's why I always said, okay, maybe right now Gus isn't, you're not paying attention to all of his years. You're just looking at the disappointing year last year that, in my opinion, wasn't disappointing. A 6-6 year in your first season, 6-7 with the bowl loss, but you made a bowl game in your first season in the Big 12. Now, there's a lot of season left to be played. So I'm not sitting here jumping on the bandwagon of the Gus needs to be fired train or bus, if you so help me. But I will say, it's now getting to the point where it does feel like it is on a decline in terms of product on the field. And I can't put my finger on it. Gus is calling the plays. I don't know if he should be calling plays anymore. With the way he's calling the plays. And again, is it a quarterback problem? I've heard some things about KJ I'm not really loving. I think the new headsets that we all thought were just going to be monumental for most coaches, probably is. Not for this coaching staff. I think it's actually a detriment. Everybody looks confused on the sideline. Nobody knows what play's coming in. So I have no idea. I think Gus Malzahn can coach. I do. He's one hell of a recruiter. He's turned this program around in terms of recruiting. And I know everybody in the comments is going to say, well, he needs to play the young guys. And I'll go into that right now because I want to be very clear. You don't just play young guys to play young guys. I think there's this notion that you lose, UCF lost to Colorado, and all I saw all week was you need to play the young guys. Gus needs to play the young guys, get them out there. That's not the answer to every team's problem, is to play young guys. I think that might be the easy, they need to develop. Making them develop is not just throwing them up in the heat of the battle and say, well, go out and learn. I think there's a couple young guys that maybe have deserved the right to play. Chasen Johnson. He proved himself in spring camp. He was a name that everybody mentioned. Gets an opportunity. A name we didn't see that we thought should. Burdell Richardson. I heard he was getting a lot of opportunities in practice this week, yet he didn't even make the trip up to Gainesville. So that, in my opinion, is very disappointing. Why aren't you giving him an opportunity? But you're 3-2. And I want to make this very clear. It's not a great 3-2, but you're 3-2. You have one conference loss. You have everything in front of you. The answer should not just be throw all your young guys in and see what you got. Because to be fair, UCF fans, if you look at the roster, you're going to get that next year. UCF is not going to do the same thing next year that they did this year. This year, they actually thought they had a chance to win the conference. Might sound funny now. They thought they had a chance. So they went all in on this year and got guys in the holes where they needed holes to be filled. They got older guys. Next year, you're going to see a lot of young guys. You're going to get what you want next year. You'll see some young guys here now coming in and out with some of the transfers that are redshirting. But I would slow up with just the put all the young guys in. I don't think that's exactly the right answer. But I do think if some of the young guys earn it and they deserve to play, then yeah, I think you should play them. I don't think you shouldn't play them just because they're true freshmen. But right now, this team looks bad. It's not a good football team. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie. This score shouldn't be, I don't know how it's 24-13. This score is nowhere near close. And if anything, if they actually put a decent 2-minute or 4-minute drive at the end of the game, it could have been a lot closer. And I would have still said the same thing. This team's just a bad football team. Questions need to be answered. And to be honest, I didn't even listen to the Gus presser at the end. I'll be in Gus's presser on Monday. Excited to hear what he has to say. But to be honest, the team doesn't, you looked at Florida today, a team that had a lot of noise surrounding it coming off of a bye week, and they looked ready. They looked pumped. UCF just didn't have that edge. They're missing an edge to their team. And listen, who am I? I'm a nobody. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know the work they put in. I'm sure, it's easy for us to say. We're talking heads, right? We only know what we know. We don't know all the work that goes. And I'm sure they were up and ready for this game, right? So I want to make that clear. At the end of the day, this is now back-to-back weeks where you just don't look competitive at all. And maybe that's on the quarterback. Maybe it's on Gus. Maybe it's on the team and how it's constructed. I mean, listen, I heard from a couple people like, oh, I don't want to poo-poo on the defense. And no, they played better in the second half. But to be fair, the game was over in the first half. What did the defense have to do in the second? Florida's offense was very vanilla in the second half. They didn't have to do anything. All they were doing was trying to run the clock, which UCF did a great job helping them out with that too. Came out of the halftime and ran a 9-minute drive and put up a field goal. There are things that are happening that are just coaching malpractice where you shake your head like, what is UCF staff thinking in this moment? What are we doing? I don't need to even read you stats. I've got the stats up. We did our postgame show. I didn't need to read you stats. We didn't read stats. KJ, 12 of 22 for 165 yards. I don't even think that tells you the full story. 12 carries for negative 18 yards. Now, granted, obviously sacks come into play there. I mean, I don't remember the last time UCF only had 279 yards of total offense. 279 yards. They had more first downs, but again, this is the real stat. And I think this just tells you how abysmal it was. 4 of 12 on third down. 4 of 12 on third down. And Florida, the UCF defense, I will give them credit. They were better in the second half. I will stand on that. They weren't really trying as hard. UCF didn't allow any points in the second half. So they did play a lot better. At the end of the day, they still can't pass, or they have no pass defense. They really don't. The run defense is starting to scare me a little bit. It just seems like they don't do anything great. What this defense is, they'll get you 3 to 4 stops, and the offense needs to. I think maybe I said it on this pod already. I might go in circles, but I know I said it on the pregame or the postgame show. We know what this defense is. This defense is going to get you about 3 to 4 stops a game where they force a punt, force some type of stop. And as the offense, you need to be able to go execute and put the ball in the end zone. I think if UCF, and I think a lot of the narrative changes. If UCF was just okay on offense, if they just, and they moved the ball in Colorado, it wasn't like they didn't. They were just inefficient. If they were just efficient, and then when the defense got to stop, UCF goes down, scores, obviously easier said than done. I think we'd be talking very differently about this team. The problem is every single time UCF's defense got to stop, the UCF offense did not do anything with it. Like, just bad play call after bad play call after bad play call. So I don't know where we go from here. I don't. This team is not good right now. The positive side is you have a lot of games left. But I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but a lot of these teams that you maybe thought were an easy win just don't look that way. The Cincinnati preview for us is going to be dropping on Thursday. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't pick prior until we do the pod because I like to talk through it with Nick. I don't feel good about that game at all. Cincinnati's got a team, man. They're beatable for sure, but they have something that, again, UCF is going to struggle against. They have a guy that can really pass the ball, and they actually have a good run game. They have both. If we can't stop either or, I mean, look at Florida tonight. Florida did whatever they wanted. I mean, I will say, I do think the UCF run defense is better than last year, obviously. But it doesn't matter. They still give up like a couple big runs a game that are crucial big runs. There's a lot that needs to be worked on. And I hate the cliche answer of, oh, we just need to get better and we need to. I am tired of hearing that. I am. Because I think it's coach speak and they have to say what they got to say. But I am tired of hearing it. Oh, we got to coach better, we got to play better. It's like you've been coaching these guys for the last 2-3 months. You've coached them more in spring. If they're not getting, this is the team. Like, you're 5 games in. I always said, remember we were all talking about rankings, and I told you guys, like, you have to wait until they've played 6 games. Week 6. Week 6, then you can worry about rankings. This is why. We know what UCF is. Like, you're not going to be seeing a different, you might see an improvement. Like, you might see UCF, because I think the offense can be there. It just makes you scratch your head sometimes with how the offense is called and why you're calling certain plays and how bad KJ has been. But besides that, you know what this team is. You know what this defense is. Like, I can't remember the last time I've been, because you always felt with UCF's offense specifically, that UCF's offense can score at will. If you need to score in 30 seconds, they got you, potentially. Now, guys, we can't score a touchdown on a 9-minute drive. Like, think about that. They're just no good. There's no good. Like, and I'm not trying to be negative Nancy, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, well, there's no positive, the sky's falling. I'm not trying to be like that. Like, at the end of the day, like I said, you lost to Florida in the swamp in a non-conference game. Like, that's the glass half full viewpoint. The glass half empty is you've looked awful for 3 straight games. And yes, they did look awful against TCU. They played 2 good quarters against TCU. You can make the argument out of the last 8 quarters of football, 12 quarters of football, they played 2 good quarters out of 12. Like, you could genuinely make that argument, and I'm sure you probably would all agree with it. That doesn't, unless you really have to start questioning how many wins this team could potentially get. You do. And I don't know. I just said, I think I said this like 5 minutes ago. Like, I don't know where we go from here. I don't. I'll say this. First of all, I do think you need to make a quarterback change. It won't happen. At least not for a half of Cincy. But if KJ keeps playing like this, a quarterback change will be made. Because I do think, and I would talk to Nick and I talked to Steven, and I think the way that this offense is run, if they want to run this type of offense, okay. Like, it's a very clear-cut offense. This is not a Gus Malzahn offense that we're used to. It is different. There's no tempo. It is ground and pound and ground and pound some more and then throw a lob pass up when you need to throw the ball. Like there's no, it's very, very vanilla. But if you want to have the quarterback run game be an issue, like an actual facet of the game, which I think it would help, you need to put Jakari Brown in. You have to. Jakari Brown, though I don't know, like we would have to see if he's an efficient passer. I have my doubts just seeing kind of his throwing motion and some of the throws he made in the end zone. But he's fast. And I think the way that this offense is run right now, unfortunately, KJ's not the guy. If you keep calling the offense like you're calling it now, it's going to be a long season. If for some reason KJ can't throw a wide receiver screen, you need to sit him. I don't know what else to say. And who knows? We'll see. I don't think you see KJ for... I think he'll start, but I think it's only a matter of time, in my opinion, the way that he's playing. Gus, the staff and Gus will tell you that KJ's our guy, and he said we got to be able to protect better. I mean, the offensive line was not great. They were okay. But let's not get it twisted. He had time on a couple of these dropbacks that he had today. He just doesn't find the open guy. And if he does find the open guy, it's either A, overthrown, B, underthrown, or C, he gets it somewhat on the money. So I think it is only a matter of time before you see a Jakari, because you have to see what you have in Jakari to see if he could be the guy next year. And then if that doesn't work, listen, I don't want to throw the 17-year-old out there, but you maybe throw EJ Colson out there, depending on where the season's going. I don't know. It's not a fun time. This is not I can't think of a more deflating type of game. Because again, you just like the Colorado game, if UCF goes out there and just puts up a good fight and it's a close game, you leave it saying, they lost a close game, that stinks, but like, team's good. Going to Florida, tough environment, you put up a good fight, you lose by a field goal, okay. This game being 24-13 is a travesty. I mean, I kind of wish we still lost by 24-6, because I think that tells the full story. 11 points doesn't tell the full story of this game. This game was completely one-sided the entire time. I didn't talk about the defense that much, but I don't really think I need to. It was bad, but give them credit where credit's due. I'm just rambling at this point. It is now 3:48 in the morning. You're probably seeing this bright and early on Sunday, so I got done and I edited. Long season ahead. Long season ahead. This is not a good one. This was a rough one. But like Gus will say, you have everything ahead of you. You have everything ahead of you. You still have the opportunities that you want to, go to a Big 12 title. But it's time to start being realistic. And it's time to start asking the right questions about what's really going on behind the scenes. Because as of right now, I think just saying we need to coach better, we need to play better is not going to work. It's not going to cut it when you're doing the same things over and over again. Just not going to cut it. All right, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'm sure we're going to hear a bunch of responses from you. It's 2 straight weeks of bad football. And it doesn't get easier. We have a rivalry game on Saturday. Like, talk about just a gauntlet of a front half. Like, traveling to TCU, which, again, for the fans that are going to say, oh, well, TCU's not that good. Like, you can't look at it just based off of, like, individual games. Like, oh, because TCU lost to Houston, the UCF loss looks, like, worse. It does, but not every game is the same. Not every matchup is the same. But you get that game, having to go to TCU for your first Big 12 game, then playing against Colorado at home with all of the media surrounding that game. Then you play Florida in the Swamp the very next week with an in-state opponent that you're trying to prove something. And then the very next week after that, you're getting a rivalry game at home. Like, talk about just a... And then the week after that, you're going to Iowa State, one of the toughest places to play in the Big 12 and, ranked. Yeah, it's just... It's a gauntlet. And I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. With this team right now, nobody's looking at UCF as a threat. Everybody's got the blueprint to beat UCF, and UCF's not changing the way they're doing things, so who knows? All right, everybody. Like I said, drop in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all that you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Like we've been saying, we really just appreciate all the support on the channel. It's been amazing. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. I don't even know what we're going to do for that yet, but all the support has truly meant the world to us, so we always appreciate you for your support, and we love bringing content to you UCF fans and opposing fans. We know that we are big on the opposing fans as well for game week, so we appreciate all of you as well. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Charge On, presented by Bet Online. We will see you on Thursday.